Alright, today I'm going to do a short hike around this lake behind me, and while I do that I want to share with you my honest opinions on the DJI Pocket 3 after using it for about 8 months, mainly for cinematic b-roll shots but also for some overhead shots and the occasional vlogs. I'll just go ahead and say it if you don't want to watch the whole video. The Pocket 3 is by far the best compact YouTube camera I have ever used. It's very easy to use, delivers excellent image quality, has great stabilization, a long battery life, and in most cases fits comfortably in a pocket depending on the size of your pocket. The camera itself is very compact and lightweight, but it is bulkier than the previous models, especially when it's inside this flimsy case that I absolutely hate, and this tripod base mount adapter, which is bulkier than it should be. However, considering the features that this camera offers, I'm totally okay with that, but it would be nice to see a slightly more compact case and tripod base mount adapter in the next model. Anyway, one of my favorite design features of this camera is the fact that you can turn it on by just flicking the screen to the side. This is such an innovative feature that makes a lot of sense for the shape of this camera because it maximizes the screen size without adding significant bulk, while also making it much more fun and easy to operate the camera. You just flick the screen and the camera turns on. The screen is also fairly bright with 700 nits of brightness and very color accurate from my experience, making it easy to expose and compose shots. I mainly use manual settings to expose my shots and I only rely on the built-in display to do so, and I never had any issues whatsoever. The only complaint I have is that when doing high or low angle shots, it's very hard to see the display because it is not tiltable, but honestly I'm not really sure if it is possible to implement a tiltable display in this form factor. If it is, it will be nice to see in the next model. Next, I want to touch on the battery. I think the battery life on this camera is fantastic. It's more or less the same as with the DJI Action 4. Actually, it is slightly longer. You get roughly 120-130 minutes of continuous recording time in 4K when the battery is fully charged, which is more than enough for what I do. It also charges super quickly. I think it takes about 16 minutes to charge from 0 to 80%, which is super impressive. However, unfortunately, the battery is not removable, which means it will degrade over time. But honestly, for me, this is not a big deal. Now, one of the main reasons to consider or dismiss this camera is that it has a built-in gimbal, which provides much more natural-looking stabilization than action cameras or other compact cameras, and allows you to decrease the shutter speed as much as you want without worrying about stabilization, unlike action cameras. So if you're like me and like using ND filters to produce cinematic motion blur in your shots, or if you frequently shoot in low light conditions, this camera will work so much better for you because using low shutter speeds will have no effect on its stabilization performance, thanks to its mechanical gimbal. Another advantage of having a built-in gimbal is the fact that it can be used for subject tracking, which is one of my favorite features of this camera. I find it very useful when creating tutorials or similar content. It essentially acts as another cameraman by following you around no matter where you go. However, from my experience, it's not 100% reliable. You have to be fairly close to the camera, I would say about 3 to 6 meters, and it can lose you if you hide behind objects like trees or bushes, for example. But overall, it's pretty reliable and a very handy feature to have for a solo content creator like me. A quick tip: once you've enabled tracking, you can use the joystick to position yourself in the frame for the default tracking position. For example, you can set yourself to the lower rule of thirds by moving the camera with the joystick, and each time the camera stops tracking, it's going to automatically position you there. A couple of other gimbal tips I want to mention. First of all, you can press and hold the joystick to completely lock the gimbal. You can also adjust the joystick movement speed by going into the settings and then selecting joystick speed. I tend to use the slowest option for slow cinematic type shots and around 4 or 5 when I'm vlogging to be able to quickly move the gimbal around. However, I wish there was an even slower option than joystick speed 1 just because I love the slow and delicate camera movements. Regardless, you also have multiple gimbal modes to choose from. I usually use the tilt locked mode for precise camera movements like push in, pull out, or sliding shots, the follow mode for vlogging and general use. However, in my experience, the new FPV lock mode also works great for vlogging because it basically keeps the camera parallel to the screen, no matter where you move it. So as you can see, the built-in gimbal offers a lot of advantages, but its main disadvantage is that it's very fragile and somewhat slow to use. I would not recommend using this camera in harsh weather or for action sports because it's not made for that. Although you can kind of mount it on a car and use it as an action camera, for example. But my point is that it's not really a robust camera. Anyway, as for focus, this camera has a phase detection autofocus system, which is very reliable from my experience. I mainly use it for vlogging or overhead shots, which honestly, I don't do that often, but for the most part, I didn't notice any autofocus issues with this camera, except for the noticeable focus breathing it produces. For the most part though, I use single point focus because I'm usually behind the camera and I prefer to lock my focus as much as possible to prevent the camera from focus hunting. Otherwise, I would happily use continuous focus. Anyway, the minimum focus distance is also fairly close. According to DJI, it's 20 centimeters, but for my tests, it's actually a bit closer. You can easily get as close as 14 centimeters, which is nice if you're into close-up shots. I'm just hanging out here with the buffaloes behind me, and it's so funny, they just they just stare at me. Let me see if I can zoom in here. Oh, there we go. The next thing I want to talk about is audio. Right now I have a lavalier microphone connected directly to the camera with a USB-C to 3.5mm adapter, but the built-in microphone on this camera is also very good. This is how it sounds like without any post-production editing, except for volume normalization. I think it sounds really good, but you have so many options to improve the audio with this camera. You can buy the creator combo and use the included wireless DJI Mic 2, which connects automatically to the camera without needing a receiver, or you can plug in any microphone you want directly into the USB-C port with a simple 3.5mm to USB-C adapter like my Boya BY-K4. Alright, so I'm pretty much done with the hike and I'm pretty tired. It was only like 5 kilometers of a hike without too much climbing, but I'm exhausted. I guess I need to get fitter. Regardless, let's talk about the image quality of the Pocket 3, which is one of the best features about this camera. DJI has really nailed it with this one. The Pocket 3 uses a 1-inch low count megapixel sensor, which was a very smart decision from DJI because it delivers best-in-class low performance and great dynamic range. I've used this camera countless times in loud conditions and it never ceases to amaze me how clean the footage looks for such a compact camera. I call it the baby A7S III, or in my case, the ZVE1, because all of these cameras deliver fantastic low performance and it's mainly due to their low count megapixel sensor. Another thing I like about this camera's image is that it delivers very accurate true to life colors. It actually looks very similar to my ZVE1 in terms of colors, which makes it a breeze to match in post-production. Also, the camera does a pretty good job of nailing the correct exposure when using automatic settings in complex scenes. It tends to preserve the highlights while still retaining a decent amount of information in the shadows, especially when shooting in D-Log-M. We have the buffaloes again here behind me. Some of them are going inside the water for a swim and I kinda want to do that as well. Anyway, the image is also very clean and detailed without any weird artifacts. However, I would highly recommend lowering the sharpness to -2 and the noise reduction to -1 to make the image a bit more natural. Now, the field of view of this camera is equivalent to 20mm with a roughly f5.6 aperture in full frame terms. This provides a fairly wide angle field of view for vlogging with a decent amount of background blur for subject separation. Now, if the 20mm field of view is not wide enough for you for vlogging, you can purchase the DJI wide angle adapter, which will transform the 20mm focal length to 15mm, or you can buy this adapter from Freewell, but this one will transform the 20mm into 18mm, and this is how it looks like. And this is without the adapter, again with the adapter, and without the adapter, and of course it is magnetic, and it comes with 3 ND filters and also with an anamorphic lens, and I think this whole package costs $130 or $150. I'm going to leave an affiliated link down below for you to check out. Anyways, to summarize, I think the DJI Pocket 3 is the best compact camera of 2024 for all the reasons I've mentioned in this video. It's not perfect, there is still some room for improvement, but it's damn close. If you're looking for a compact camera for vlogging, family videos, or even as a backup camera, I highly recommend this one. It delivers great image quality, low light performance, stabilization, tracking features, autofocus, and battery life, all in a relatively compact size that fits in your pocket. Let me know down below if you agree with me or not, and I guess I'm gonna head back home and I'll see you again soon. Bye bye.